Good afternoon. It is 1:30 on Tuesday, January 16th, 2024, and I will call this regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of Jasper to order. For those of you who are joining us on our Zoom platform, you will not be able to see, but I am facing, I think, about 30 grade 6 students from Ms. Confer's class. They are studying, I understand, municipal government. So they are here like council. They took time to read the agenda before they showed up today. And they are here and eager to see local government unfold from the perspective of the gallery. So welcome to all of you. I hope you find it both interesting, educational, and perhaps entertaining. So welcome to all of you. It is an auspicious day to have you here. We rarely have a gallery so big, and because of that, and also because it is the first of our regular council meetings of this year, I would like to begin by acknowledging that the municipality of Jasper is on Treaty 6 and Treaty 8 territories, as well as the Jasper House Métis district. This land is the traditional territory, meeting ground, gathering place, traveling route, and home for the Dainza, the Nishuachwanabak, Anisawitchi Niha, the Nahiawak, Anishinaabe, Secwepemc, Stoney Nakoda, Mountain Métis, and Métis. The municipality of Jasper acknowledges the land to honor the relationship Indigenous people have with this land, to remind us of our responsibility and obligations to this place and to Indigenous people, and to affirm our accountability to address the ongoing impacts of colonization that continue to affect Indigenous people. With that, I will turn to council. You have today's proposed agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or other changes to be made to the agenda? Councillor Waxer.
Yes, I would like to add, and it may not be today, and maybe it's for next week, but I would like to add a discussion on our transit service. I was troubled by the events of this weekend in regards to the transit situation in our bitter cold and its potential impact on the vulnerable. And so I would like to have a robust conversation at some point on service standards. And I recognize that today, being brand new, it is not necessarily ideal to be on a council agenda, but if not today, if we could potentially have it added to committee as a whole.
Thank you for that. Councillor Waxer, we have an option, if council is otherwise inclined to allow that as an amendment to the agenda. We could put it as 6.7, but if it might be deferred, we could deal with it at 6.0 and rather than delay it, but I'm open to the end of new business or the start of new business. Is there a preference?
My understanding is that transit service standards may be on the agenda next week, so I am willing to delay the conversation until next week if that would be more appropriate.
Well, I will propose that we add transit terms of reference, standards as agenda item 6.7. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. I would also like to add in an item to the agenda. I guess it would be 6.8, community engagement.
Thank you for that. Any other changes, Councillor or Deputy Mayor Wilson?
Could I add agenda item 6.9, conference attendance, CMHC?
Thank you for that. Anything further? We have agenda item 5, delegations, without any notes, but I understand that there are a couple of gentlemen here who would like to speak to us about just an update on the men's shed that we heard previously. So I would propose someone will make that motion to add that as a specific item under.
I'll make that motion.
Are there any other changes proposed? If not, I have a motion perhaps from one councillor that the agenda for today's meeting be amended by adding men's shed as a delegation and by adding agenda item 6.7 transit standards, 6.8 community engagement, and 6.9 conference attendance. Councillor Hall, thank you for that motion. All in favor? There are none opposed. That was carried. And may I have a motion then, please, to approve the agenda for today's meeting as amended? Deputy Mayor Wilson, thank you. Are there any opposed? Oh, I guess I have to ask all in favor first. And there are none opposed. That is carried. So we have an agenda now. On that agenda, begin with item 3, approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes for approval today, beginning with the regular meeting minutes of December 19th, 2023. Are there any errors, omissions, or corrections required to be made to those minutes? If not, may I have a motion, please? The council approve the agenda, approve the minutes of the December 19, 2023 regular council meeting as presented. Councillor Waxer, thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And we also have before us meeting minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of January 9th, 2024. Are there any errors, omissions, or corrections required to be made to those minutes? If not, may I have a motion, please? The council approve the minutes of the January 9, 2024 committee of the whole meeting as presented. Deputy Mayor Wilson, thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. That takes us to agenda item 4, correspondence. There's nothing on the agenda, nothing to add. Mr. Gibbon, thank you. And then that takes us to agenda item 5, where we have added as a delegation an update from those interested in the men's shed. I think we have both Mr. Wilson. Are you speaking?
Yep,
You're up.
thank you.
There, and both of them except mine.
Oh my
Are
gosh.
you getting someone?
No.
Okay, there you go,
They're
sir.
not on?
Yeah.
Good. And do I need to project my voice?
No, you use my, get right up to the
Very
mic.
good. Thanks. First of all, council, thanks for hearing us. Don't be shy. First of all, this is an update as to where the men's shed is at now. We have made progress. We have, I guess it would be not a tentative agreement, it's a proposed agreement with the library or the museum to possibly utilize the lot that is between the existing museum and the pull-ups that are right next to it. And as part of our development plan, what we're asking from council is what it would cost to service that lot and the possibility of, with that servicing, a gift in kind, so that if the cost to us to develop, to build a building there is decreased. That would serve 2 things. First of all, it would give us, unfortunately, a temporary place to mount the men's shed, because the museum does have plans although the existing executive says it's not going to be for 10 years, to utilize that lot. So by us servicing it, it gives them a decrease in their eventual development plans to build a new museum. Although Herb says he has no idea when that's going to be, but he says it's not going to be for 10 years. So for us, it would be a temporary place. And I guess in order for us to help to develop our development plan is we need an idea from council as to what that's going to cost us. And if there is a possibility for a gift in kind to decrease the cost to us. And that's number one. Number two it was brought up that as another spot for us to possibly build a building is in Centennial Park. There is a log building that is used for, in the summertime, my understanding, the building is filled full of seasonal equipment. Because out of that building, there are various programs that are run out of that area. And we were wondering about the possibility of building a building beside that log building to utilize that. It's a good location, central location. The servicing is all already in that location. And it's just something that was, we were casting around for other areas where we might build a building. And that one came up. And it's not really, there aren't a lot of neighbors. There's not a lot of noise to deal with. The Moline Avenue, we'd be away from the Moline Avenue homes and away from Summit Seniors as well as the hospital as well. So it's not like and we're all old. We don't create lots of noise. So, but anyway, and I guess that's the extent of my discussion now. Do you have any questions?
Well, thank you for the presentation. I will turn it first to councillors. Deputy Mayor Wilson has a question, it appears.
Just for the benefit of the public, could you just quickly brief us on what takes place at a men's shed and for the children behind you?
Okay, yes. Sorry about that. I should have done that beforehand, but I figured considering this was a follow-up to a previous, and who knows, there are those watching that may not know anything.
I think your microphone's gone off, so the people watching on Zoom.
Okay, there we are. We're in. Does it shut off automatically? Okay. Yes, what the men's shed is. The men's shed is an organization to help primarily senior men combat two prime things, and that's loneliness and depression. And it basically gives men who, after retirement, or for various other reasons, have little to do and sometimes are lost. And as an organization, what it does a lot of philanthropic work throughout the communities, everything from helping seniors move to building wheelchair ramps to helping the local either the school drama or maybe if there's a community drama group build their sets, things like that. There's a huge broad cross section of things that sheds do, and usually the things that they participate in are shaped by what's necessary in the community where they are. Salt Spring has 185 members, and their shed is very organized or focused on what that community needs. Vanderhoof has a huge shed, and they have become almost a business. So, but that's according to what that community needs or what they've been approached to do. But there's everything from building bird boxes for the local bird count to everything under the sun. And what we don't want to do, we're not an organization that wants to step on let's say local contractors' business or anything like that. That's not what we want to do. We don't want to step we just want to have a place to build stuff and focus, and that can be everything from model building to everything under the sun.
Thank you.
Councillor Kelleher.
Thank you, Mayor Armand. Can I ask you, what type of building are you proposing to put on either side?
Well, it depends on the location. In the, because at the museum location, we would have to build a building that eventually would have to be able to come apart and be moved. So that could be everything from either shipping containers to ATCO shacks, two of them, let's say, with a roof on it and maybe a floor in between, as opposed to the Centennial Park. It would be more like a large garage, a garage package, that kind of thing, 26 by 38. And what we need roughly 800 square feet. That's what we've considered would be a decent sized working space. So, and in that location, in the Centennial Park location, the building could actually be made to look similar to the existing building that's there. I'm not saying build it out of log, but we have lots of expertise in the group of men that are hoping to get this or working to get this off the ground, that we could do, you could do a frame building with half log siding on it to make it look like a log building so it would fit in. But
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. So, thank you for coming again today, and I'm happy to hear things are moving forward with this project. You want full services to this. If it was to be in the museum land, you're looking for full services to be connected. Is that correct?
Yeah, eventually, yes. The electrical and telephone and that kind of thing would be, and I think gas as well. But I guess as far as the municipality is concerned, it would be basically sewer and water. And the other thing would be, not for a building that our size, we would require 4-inch services, but considering that for the new museum, it would be better off to put in the required services that the museum would eventually need, which are the bigger services, a 6-inch or bigger even. That is beyond my scope of expertise. But I know that if we're going to service that lot beside the museum, it should be for not something they're going to have to dig up later and make larger for the new museum.
And that would make sense. I guess my question would be towards administration: is this a possibility? What would this cost, or what? Like, how would that work?
Your worship, for Councillor Hall. So at this time, administration doesn't have an estimation of that. Obviously, the site is directly adjacent to other service sites, and so it'd be essentially from running the pipes from the roadway into the site. But I don't have any sort of cost that I could share at this time. If council is interested, it might be the type of matter that you'd refer to administration and request a report back at a future committee of the whole meeting. That way we could have our utilities team have a look at that and give a bit of a estimate based on recent projects that were similar.
Thank you for that. Councillor Kelleher.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. Through you to administration, Centennial Park, where the log building is there, would we be allowed to put a building on there, or is that, are we restricted to the park and the current building that's there?
Well, I think, your worship, for Councillor Kelleher-MP, in either location, Parks Canada development approval would be a requirement, and the municipality wouldn't have any control or influence in that, because unlike most local governments in the province, the municipality of Jasper doesn't actually have any control over giving building permits and that kind of thing. We're limited to participating by providing services. So it would be up to the group, I would imagine, to seek Parks Canada approval on either site. I would say that the use of a site that is essentially clear of any other use and intended for future development would likely be easier than a site that is generally community use and a park. I think that's just sort of a general principle. And municipal administration isn't involved in those kind of approvals at all.
If there are no other questions, I'm sorry, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Wilson.
No other questions. I would follow up with a motion directing that council direct administration to return to council with costs associated with the utility hookups to the museum parcel, as discussed with the Benchit representative, and as well as a brief report about the feasibility of a building at the log cabin location. To return to council at a future committee of the whole meeting.
Thank you for that motion. Does that capture all? Is it possible we could add any other alternatives? I mean, maybe in discussions, something else will come up. I wouldn't want to limit it. Those two are on the table, museum and beside the log building, but once discussions start, I wouldn't want them to be hindered by a restrictive motion. So any other alternatives that might come to mind during the research phase? Would you be comfortable with that?
And thank you for that. And just something further is just for technicality. Technically, we are not a society yet. The wheels of the provincial government grind slowly, so we do not have our society status as of yet. Check has been cashed and the process is initiated, but technically we are not a society yet, and we wouldn't be looking at doing anything till May, April, May, June, as soon as frost is out, or whenever the development process comes to fruition.
Thank you for that. So for the benefit of Acorn, I think the motion was for council to direct administration to investigate the cost of the two proposed options, that is the museum site and the Centennial Park potential site, and any other alternative might arise, and report back to a future committee of the whole meeting. Is there any debate on that motion? I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. So thank you, Mr. Wilson and Mr. Bucott back there, for coming to present again and in front of a great audience. Who can't believe it, but one day might be seniors too.
Great, thank you very much for hearing us.
Thank you. That takes us to agenda item 6, new business, 6.1, supplementary assessment of improvements and supplementary tax bylaw. If it needs a presentation, I would look to Mr. Gibbon.
Your worship, these are two items that come to council every year. Director Malinchuk is our Director of Finance and Administration. And so items like property tax bylaws and the revenue of the municipality are all in her area of subject matter expertise. And so I'm going to hand it over to Director Malinchuk to introduce these two bylaws.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbon. Good afternoon, council. So administration is bringing these two bylaws to council and requesting that council give first and second reading today for the supplementary assessment of improvements for 2024. And that council also give first and second reading to the supplementary tax bylaw 2024. So that, as Mr. Gibbon had stated before, last year you saw these exact bylaws come through early or mid-January and early February. And basically, the supplementary assessment of improvements allows the municipality to assess properties having newly constructed buildings or major additions and renovations in the same tax year as they are completed and occupied. So within section 369 of the Municipal Government Act, it requires that council pass a bylaw authorizing it to impose supplementary tax in the same year as the supplementary assessment is to be done. So therefore, that is why these come every year to council for to be passed. A little bit extra detail on the second page of the request for decision. If you scroll down to the financial impact, you can see that the last 5 years of municipal tax revenue generated by supplementary is given to council there. So you can see that what we've seen in the past. Obviously, 2024 is not available as of yet. And that's all I have for now, unless there's further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Melanchuk. Are there questions from council? Deputy Mayor Wilson.
With the supplementary tax, say on a new build, would the supplementary tax only be based on the remaining months once the property is occupied? And prior to that, it would be based on land only, or land, or is, yeah.
Your worship, through to Councillor Wilson, yes, you're correct. Before that, land, and then what the assessor does is will go and look at the improvements done over the period and give the new supplementary prorated on that time. And then you will see that come in as a new assessment with the tax notice as well.
Thank you for that. Councillor Keller.
Around you to Director Melanchuk. 2022 was exceptionally higher than other years. Can you explain why?
Yes, your worship, through to Councillor Keller MP, that is due to Forest Park coming online. So there was a big addition renovation there. So that's why we saw that.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, I just wanted to return to the question posed by Deputy Mayor Wilson. The supplemental assessment bylaw is clear, in my view. In 3.1.2, it speaks to occupation. So in a building, a new improvement is occupied, so we could assume that on the date of the occupancy permit, that's when the assessment happens. The wording in the supplementary tax bylaw doesn't directly say that, it references it. So I understand that the practice is that once there's an occupancy permit, it's assessable and taxable for that proportion of the year. Just seems to me that the language could be more clear, that the tax applies from occupancy onward.
Your worship, I appreciate there is a slight difference between the two, as you point out. I think it's important to understand that there's actually an order of precedence to these bylaws. So you have to do the supplementary assessment bylaw first. So that's the bylaw that authorizes the municipality to value the properties, the improvements on the properties. And the 3.1.1, 3.1.2, and 3.1.3 are the ones that say, here's where we will sort of value them. And once that step is done, those properties now are on the supplementary assessment tax roll. And so whatever of those conditions allowed them to be assessed by the assessor, they're now on the tax roll. And so in the second bylaw, which says, okay, now we have a tax roll, how much taxes are we allowed to levy taxes, collect taxes on those properties that are on this list? And so once you're on the list, whatever condition got you on the list, you're on the list. And that's why the tax levy bylaw, I think, doesn't reference the date of occupancy, because the point is that you're on the list. Once you've got onto that list, then the second bylaw authorizes the municipality to levy a property tax on you. So the first one says, how do you get on the list? The second one says, well, now that you're on the list, the municipality is allowed to levy a property tax on you.
From the same date, from the date you got on the list.
That's correct, your worship.
Thank you for that. If there are no further questions to administration, it is proposed that we give both first and second reading to both bylaws today, recognizing that I think we have. No, I suppose we're not bound by any particular date on this. It's when we get it, but the sooner the better for any improvements that might be underway now. All right, is there a councillor then prepared to make a motion that council give first reading to bylaw number 257 being the supplementary assessment bylaw? Councillor Kelleher MP, thank you for that. For first reading, is there any debate? All in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And is there a councillor prepared to make a motion that council read for a second time bylaw number 257 being a bylaw of the specialized municipality of Jasper in the province of Alberta to authorize the supplementary assessment of improvements for the taxation year 2024? Deputy Mayor Wilson, thank you. There's no debate. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Similarly, is there a councillor prepared to make a motion that council read for the first time bylaw number 258 being a bylaw of the specialized municipality of Jasper in the province of Alberta to authorize the imposition of a supplementary tax for the taxation year 2024? Councillor Kelleher MP, thank you. Seeing no hands for debate, I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And finally, is there a councillor prepared to make a motion that council read for the second time bylaw number 258 being a bylaw of the specialized municipality of Jasper in the province of Alberta to authorize the imposition of a supplementary tax for the taxation year 2024? Councillor Waxer, thank you. If you're ready for the question, I will call it. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And so having given first and second reading to each of those, I take it we'll go to Parks Canada for certification and come back to council at our next scheduled regular meeting. Thank you for that. That takes us to agenda item 6.2, similar matter with the utilities fees levy and collection bylaw for 2024, but can I allow you to introduce that? Either Mr. Given or Director Melanchuk.
Your worship, you're 100% correct. This is Director Melanchuk's area as well, and so I'll hand it over to her to introduce the utility fees and levy collection bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Given. So administration is coming to council today for first and second reading of the utility fees levy and collection bylaw for 2024. In the approved 2024 budget that was discussed over the months of November and December of 2023, utilities were also discussed, and of the expenses, which total $7,462,605, the amount covered by levies is $6,007,421. The remaining amount would be collected by bulk sales or dumping. Just to give a high-level overview for those that did not have the opportunity to read the background of the utilities, we saw some increases in solid waste, and it was just a 3.44%. This was mostly due to increases in operational costs and a slight increase in transfer to reserves as usual. Recycling saw an overall increase of 19.4%, and this is due to an increase in transfers to reserves in anticipation of a new extended producer responsibility adaptation in the capital plan that was also approved. Water levies will remain the same in 2024 since capital increases were offset by transfer from reserves, from prior year transfer into reserves, from a surplus, and also additional revenue anticipated from bulk water sales. So that kept it where we didn't have to raise them this year. Sewer increases were felt in the capital area, again, for the 5-year plan of increased transfers to reserves for asset management. Increase in consumption due to having increases in contracted services and utilities as well as debt payments. And connection went up due to salaries and benefits. And just a reminder that connection is any of the fees that are associated with hard costs that will always be there. And then we have the, capital that we've been growing each year. And the consumption is what is used. Okay, so going forward, we're going to talk about the estimated impacts of the proposed rates on 2024 and what it's looking like for potential change from 2023. Keep in mind that these changes would be based on consumption mostly. We've listed it all out so that you can see the change in each area. But given that, for instance, I think I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but onto Appendix A, for instance, your consumption on a residential is basically averaging around 20 cubic meters. And then a small commercial could be looking at an average of 53. And this is based off of all properties and a study that was done. Whereas a medium commercial is looking at more like 210 cubic meters. And large commercials is up to 1,543. So that would be your large hotels that would be using that much. So that direct change is only based, well, not only based, but is largely based on the use of the water and then also the amount going through to sewer. So that's something to consider in looking at those amounts, because if those consumptions aren't reached, then they will not see that change. The averages were taken by the large properties. The study was done so that it was broken down by those groups, just to give an idea of what each area might be looking at. Otherwise, the only other thing that I had to note was that the rates need to be advertised before they are increased. And this is intended to go out in the November, December billing that we will be sending out in February 8th, I believe, is the last day that we can send out that notice. So therefore, why council is seeing this for first and second reading today to then receive certification from Parks Canada and return, I believe it's the February 6th meeting, a regular meeting for third reading. And that's everything unless there's more questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Questions from councillors? Well, I might begin then. Are you able to tell us, Mrs. Melichuk, the relative amounts or the specific amounts collected through 3 categories? How much of the 6 or 7 million is collected through consumption? How much through capital, and how much through connection?
Yes, I do have that data. I might have to dig a little tiny bit to get it into one of my spreadsheets where I've done that work.
As you search for that, I ask because I continue to be challenged by members of the community, particularly with respect to the capital cost and capital cost based on pipe size. And there are any number of ways that utility fees could be collected, and without suggesting anything other than full cost recovery, I just wonder whether we might at some point reconsider how we achieve equity. I think people are prepared to accept that consumption charges are equitable in their nature. I think people are generally prepared to accept that a connection fee is reasonable, even if you choose to go on a southern hot holiday for a couple of months, and don't run your water. You want to be connected, and there is some value, but the capital cost based on pipe size, I continue to hear from residents and businesses that it is not an equitable way. And so I wonder firstly, how much proportionally is being collected, and whether there is an opportunity to put more of the burden on consumption and less on what is a bit of an arbitrary manner of collecting the recapitalization costs.
Excuse me, Your Worship. Well, Director Melanchuk's maybe finding out the data from last year about how much we collected in each of those three categories. One thing I can point to is in the attached sort of impact assessment, you can see that the capital charge under all four different conditions is actually the smallest proportion of any of the water charge, sorry, the second smallest. And in all cases is smaller than the amount that property would pay for consumption. So already consumption is generating, I can see here that consumption is generating more revenue than capital charges across the system. I'll be interested to see if Director Melanchuk's numbers prove that out, but I would hazard a guess to say that that's the case. So of the three categories that we use to do our water billing, the amount of water that you use is where you pay the most of your bill. The next largest proportion is that capital charge, which helps us pay to replace the pipes that are in the ground. And then the final part is for those sort of underlying costs, the cost of having somebody to answer the phone and the computer systems and the postage to send out bills every month. And those are covered in your connection charge. So my first response would be to say that it is not providing the majority of our revenue. And this model could be changed at any time to increase one proportion over the other. And as council will remember, a tweak or a change in any of those, we can kind of consider those like three dials. And if you change one dial, it forces some other dial to also have a change. So absolutely, we could reduce the amount that we collect on capital or collect a capital amount at a flat rate, $100 per property. And that revenue, the money that we need to replace the pipes in the future, would be spread across the community and utility ratepayers in different ways. If it went to the consumption charge, basically making the cost of water higher, then people who use a lot of water would probably bear more of the cost of capital improvements. Again, there are probably 30 different scenarios. Council will remember when we built this model that we looked at a number of different ones, and we certainly do have the option to spread the cost to different types of users, and administration can absolutely look at that anytime the council would like to direct us to do so. My suggestion would be that it is not an insignificant amount of work to do that kind of analysis. Council members participated in that discussion at the start of this term, some of you last term. I don't remember that was a months long discussion because it is highly technical and the what if scenarios are unlimited. And so that exploration is likely something that either administration would need very clear direction on to analyze one scenario, or council should direct administration that you'd like to have a wider ranging discussion about a wide variety of scenarios, and we can administratively and council dedicate enough time to work through all the different possible versions of a model. Director Melanchuk, I don't know if you're able to collect the information about how much of our revenue came from those three different categories in the last year.
Yes, Your Worship, I do. What I did is couldn't find my actual document that I was hoping to find, but I just did a quick calculation because I was working on utilities just recently off of the current values. So what we've collected in 2023. So in water, of the total levy that we've collected, the consumption is 45%, 21% went to connection, and 34% went to capital. And And then for sewer, we are looking at 81% actually ended up being consumption. 5% was connection and 13% was capital.
So your worship, if I may, based on that information, I think it's what's likely that you're hearing is from utility ratepayers who feel they're paying too much of the capital charge compared to other utility rate players. So, that the cost of capital charges increasing along with the size of the pipe that connects your property, that it increases too quickly. And that people with smaller pipes should pay more of the capital charge. They don't, as you can see, capital charges aren't the majority of people's bills.
Mhm.
What you may be hearing is that some people that are paying a large portion of the capital charge, who are paying a big chunk of that small 1/3 of the pie, feel that their contribution is greater than it should be in comparison to people who have smaller service connections.
I think that's a fair assessment. It's a question of equity, so particularly for small or medium business where because of regulations now, newer businesses might require a larger pipe connection for fire suppression, but they use a minimal amount on a consumption basis, but they're paying more than their neighbor, and it's seen as an inequity. I appreciate how much time it takes to adjust these dials and try and get a more equitable result. I do appreciate that council can tackle it at any time. And I do also appreciate that there is a sensitivity to the timing of getting something out the door so people have notice of what's coming. But I'm really happy to have those numbers. Are you able to explain to me why consumption proportion is so much higher for sewer as compared to water, not quite double, but it was from 45% to 81%. There might be a simple explanation if somebody understands the utility better than I do.
One thing that the calculation that I just did was based off of the amount collected versus the total amount collected. So in water, we're collecting less and the rates are less than sewer. And that's how I've been doing the calculation based off the total levy of collected in the year. So.
Thank you for that. Are there other questions from councillors? Councillor Keller?
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. I have a question regarding recycling. So I noticed that small, medium and large size buildings all have the same recycling fee. When we know that some businesses have very little, some businesses have more, have we thought about a more equitable way to grocery stores compared to restaurants compared to small business that has hardly any?
Your worship, if I may, I'll speak to that as a start. What this table doesn't show you is what 2022 looked like. And in 2022, all utility payers paid the same amount for recycling. So actually the 2023 year was the first year where we had a residential rate for recycling and a commercial rate for recycling. So again, administration happy to explore any other methods that council would like. Or what proportion of the cost of the municipality's overall recycling program should be borne by businesses versus homeowners. I think the 2022 rates showed the council had an interest in saying, okay, well, commercial, which generates more, should pay some more, and that's why we have a higher rate. If council wanted to explore the opportunity to have additional differentiation, different classes of commercial, that's something we could look at. I will say that the categories here of small commercial, medium commercial, and large commercial are based on the volume of water consumption, have no relation to garbage production or recycling, waste. And so that would be something that would be very new for us. We wouldn't have a way to classify that. We'd have to think about it. And commercial users also may enter into arrangements with the municipality for additional pickup if it's required. And so they may be paying additional costs on top of this sort of flat fee that everyone who receives a bill receives, has to pay that cost. Some people may also choose to contract the municipality or pay the municipality for additional level of service.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbons. So if I understand this right, that retail or a grocery store that has a lot of cardboard that needs to be picked up, that they enter into a municipality and pay for extra pickups?
Your worship, for Councillor Keller, I think they may. I don't know the details of every situation. Director Greathead would have more information on that. But there's certainly that opportunity to do that.
Thank you for that.
If there are no further questions for administration, is there a councillor prepared to make a motion for first reading? Deputy Mayor Wilson?
Yeah, I would make the motion that council read for the first time bylaw 259, being a bylaw of the specialized municipality of Jasper in the province of Alberta to provide for the levying and collection of fees for the provision of water, sewer, solid waste, recycling services in 2024.
Thank you for that motion. Is there any debate? I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. We'll look to the councillor to make a motion for second reading. Councillor Hall?
Do you want me to read it?
Do you want me to read it?
Go ahead.
I have a motion from Councillor Hall that council read for the second time bylaw number 259, being a bylaw of the specialized municipality of Jasper in the province of Alberta to provide for the levying and collection of fees for the provision of water, sewer, solid waste, and recycling services in 2024. I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Before we leave the matter entirely, Director Melanchuk, what would be the consequence if on February 6th, council did not give third reading to the bylaw?
Your worship, ultimately, the consequence would be that it would be, even though maybe it received third bylaw sooner than, not February 6th, but soon after that, it would still be delayed by 2 months of advertising. Therefore, it would put the clients then, or the users might then have to pay even more, as we would have to prorate it back to January 1st to collect the right amount of money. So they would just see more impact in, it is possible, it's just not ideal in their payment opportunities and whatnot as well.
Thank you for that. I'm sorry I missed an opportunity there as you were speaking to thank the grade 6 class, but thank you, Ms. Consrup, and your grade 6 class. And that was
We'll watch the rest in camera.
okay. Thank you very much.
Talk about it.
Thank you for that explanation, Director Melanchuk. It's important, I think, to get that detail on the public record. I have a bit of a concern. We'll find out later in the day whether we are actually going to have quorum for February 6th. But it might mean that perhaps if we can get certification now that we have second reading, we could attend to the matter by special meeting or something next week, just so that we don't put ratepayers into a difficult situation by delaying advertising for 2 weeks. But and I'm only speculating as to what might happen with February 6th, but we may be challenged to meet for. So thank you for that. That takes us to agenda item 6.3, Director's Report. Finance and Administration, so most definitely back to you, Director Melanchuk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to provide a quick summary, I guess, because the audience has left us, I'm sure that most of you have read this, but IT for major projects, the biggest thing that has been going on in IT world is that the master plan has been developed by the consultants, and it's in near completion now that we're in January. So this report actually goes until till the end of November. And then the financial reports will be as at September 31st. So please consider that, because even if I brought the reports up now for September 31st, they would have changed. But yeah, so even then, back in early September, November, the project was being worked on. And there was also no before training for some of the staff, so the high use staff, and then we're going to look at also including the lower use staff, as well as council, as it's been a request of council as well, to potentially look at having that training in the future. And otherwise, for myself, you've seen a lot of me, and that has been because of budget and planning, going through the operating and capital budgets, and also in the works has been the asset retirement obligations. That is about 90% complete, with another meeting to be conducted this week, actually. I'm hoping for a full completion on that so that it can be presented to council. The IT master plan will be also presented to council. The asset retirement obligations needed to be completed for the 2023 so that it could be incorporated into the 2023 financial statements. So our consultant will also be working with our auditors to make sure that that's implemented into the financial statements. Otherwise, for some of the staff upgrades or updates, we've had two of our staff actually work on professional asset management planning course, which has been really beneficial. I too want to take this, but it always ends up being at budget time, so it's been a hard one to take on. And a lot of vendors have been switching to the EFT program, so that's really good. I say, like, we're, you know, basically over half in getting the in EFT payments now, so that's good. So it reduces on the amount of paper that we're sending out, and the correspondence is a bit quicker. Obviously, transactions are quicker. And as indicated before, utilities, the November and December billings out mailed in January. Well, we had to change that till the latest we could do was February 8th. So normally we would try to get them out in January, but we had to push that, just trying to get the bylaw put through with the meetings that council has set in their calendar. And I know that this is a question most of the time, so therefore I put it into the report this year on where we are in arrears. So at September 30th, we were at 3.3% in arrears on utility billings. And then in taxation, we're at 4.3% in tax arrears. So sitting about the same as it has in the past few years. And paid parking, I know everybody's waiting to see the news on paid parking. The detailed report will be prepared and financials will be coming in early 2024. So meaning February, March, I believe, when you'll see those details. As well, so this report you were supposed to see in December. So I went over some stuff about the bylaws that you were going to see coming. The next one you'll see coming is tax rate bylaw. And before that, we'll be having some discussions on the split and how that would look for commercial or non-res versus res. going forward in the plan to set the tax rate bylaws. So there will be some discussions there. And the assessment notices will be mailed out by May 15th, with the tax notices going out in June. The last possible date we'll be sending them out will be June 14th for payments due for July 15th. So that's a quick summary of some of the things that have been going on in the office. And otherwise, what I've included is, again, remembering that this is just only until September 30th of 2023. A summary of all departments in revenue and expenses, as well as council and revenue and expenses, and the capital. Now, the capital has changed drastically since this report was created, and it will be coming back to council shortly as well, with updates on exactly where it is for 2023, if it's complete, if it'll be work in progress, and basically we'll be having the discussion around carry forwards into the new year, into 2024, and the amounts that will be set, so that you will see in February coming along for council to make those, March, will be, because I must say, February, we're still getting invoices, so March, on the exact numbers that we'll be seeing roll into the next year as work in progress. And that's my quick summary of the report, and I'm available if there are any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Melanchuk. Are there questions from councillors? Councillor Keller.
Thank you, Mayor, and tribute to Ms. Melchuk. Thank you for the report, a lot of hard work. I'm just wondering, are you fully staffed now? I know you were backfilling, and I'm just wondering if you're totally staffed up now.
Your worship. Your worship, through to Councillor Keller MP. We are not quite there, but getting close. So I will have more updates by the end of this week. So in my next report for sure. So I can't disclose everything at this point. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Other questions? I will ask then, Director Melanchuk, your report indicates that assessment notices will be mailed out by May 15th. Is there an opportunity or a likelihood that it would be earlier? If the tax notices are to go out a month less a day later, which leaves little time for people to file appeals if they choose to, and to hear appeals before the tax notice. So I wonder if there's any opportunity to get assessments out earlier, just to open that opportunity for those who wish to engage with it.
Your worship, I can discuss that with my tax clerk and see if it's a possibility on her end. It might be slightly, but the dates have been set already for appeal and whatnot as well, which follow the amount, or which follow a calendar that's set by the government. So there is a slight chance that we might be able to get it out a tiny bit sooner, but it will depend on her and the dates that she's set with for the appeals and whatnot already.
Your worship, if I may, as Director Melanchuk said, all of the dates around assessment notices and taxation are really covered in provincial legislation. I'm certain that they specify the minimum amount of space that there needs to be between receiving your assessment notice and your tax notice. I don't know that they specify a maximum, but there are some, practical matters, and so that's, I think, what Director Melanchuk is saying is, on the practice side, maybe we can stretch that out to give a little bit more time. But all Jasper residents can be assured that the province legislates all municipalities to provide a minimum amount of time for people to be able to receive their assessment notice, to decide whether they feel their property has been accurately assessed, and to dispute that if they feel that there's some inaccuracy or mistake that's been made. And that entire process, including when the meetings have to be held by and everything else, is uniform across all of Alberta. The municipality of Jasper doesn't do anything any differently. And I think broadly, it's, that all the information comes at a certain point of the year. Often, we are also waiting on the province of Alberta, and we even sometimes have to make estimates about what the school requisition will be before sending the tax notices. But much of that is guided by provincial legislation, and if Director Malchuk can find a way to gather all the info and get it out a little bit earlier, that would be great. I think councillors should temper their hopes about number of months ahead of time, but I think we may be talking a number of days early that we might be able to get that kind of info to people.
Well, thank you for that full explanation. It's good to get that on the record and gives us an opportunity for a discussion point with our own MLA, because those timelines are difficult, I think, for people. But I thank you for that response. Other questions for Director Malachuk? If not, is there a councillor prepared to make a motion to receive the report for information? Deputy Mayor Wilson, thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed, that is carried. Agenda item 6.4, National Immigration Project, Local Immigration Project and Settlement Services Renewal Support. That comes to us, I think, from a recommendation from Committee of the Whole a week ago to recommend that council approve submitting an application. Director Reid, did you wish to speak to it at all?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the council, I have nothing to add, other than to say that the team is working hard on the applications, and so they will be much appreciative to see this motion pass, should it pass.
Thank you for that. Subject to any questions that councillors might have for administration, I would turn to a councillor to make a motion. Councillor Waxer.
I'm very happy to make the recommendation that council approves submitting an application to continue the partnership with Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Canada, IRCC, to deliver existing and expanded national, regional, and local services for another 5-year term.
Thank you for that, Councillor Waxer, and I'm going to say that I heard that was a motion, not a recommendation.
Yeah.
Right, any debates? I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Thank you, Director Reid. Agenda item 6.5, Jasper-Hakone Committee recommendations.
Your Worship, I'll maybe introduce this, and then I certainly will look to the two committee members to provide some additional information. This is the first of recommendations coming from the municipality's new Jasper-Hakone Committee. The committee met for the first time just last week, I believe, and has a number of recommendations for council. Specifically, that council approved the 2024 delegation to our sister city of Hakone, Japan, and that council authorized the mayor to write a letter to Tourism Jasper inviting them to formally participate in the Hakone delegation from November 1st to November 4th, 2024. The committee also recommends that council discontinue the Jasper-Hakone Student Exchange Program permanently, and that the mayor consider Councillor Waxer to act as the chair of the committee until the next organizational meeting. Your Worship, I can speak to each of these items very briefly. Again, Director Nadon was supporting the committee administratively. I was there for a portion of the meeting. The committee members may have additional information, but recognizing that this is sort of a new approach where not all council members would have been at the committee, unlike Council Committee of the Whole, the reports that were attached to these items were also attached to the council report. So with respect to the delegation to Hakone, council will remember that it's been a number of years since the municipality of Jasper has supported that reciprocal relationship with Hakone, Japan. There was some discussion about going last year in 2023, and for a number of reasons that wasn't able to be initiated. In review of the relationship and the modern approach to doing these types of delegations. The committee is really recommending, and you don't see some of the direction from to administration from the committee. The committee is really recommending that the delegation to Hakone, Japan be focused exclusively on the sister city portion. I think in the past, certainly before COVID, this may have been there may have been more cultural programming and a much longer schedule of events for the delegation. Here, the committee is suggesting that the focus should be exclusively on the sister city. And if there's an opportunity to support economic development, if Tourism Jasper or other entities come to the table to participate in other economic development meetings, then council members should be able to support that. But the municipal supported portion of the program would be that focus on more exclusively on the 4 days and participating with our sister city. With respect to the student exchange program, as you'll see in the report, the program has had relatively uneven and limited participation over more recent years. When the municipality undertook some recent research, we could find only one other Alberta municipality that participated in a similar program. And their program differed quite a bit from the way that Jasper has done it in the past. The Jasper Youth Exchange Program had traditionally been sending unaccompanied minors to Japan, where they would stay with host families or family. Stony Plain, the only other Alberta municipality that we could find that ran a similar program, would only do it every 3 years approximately. And in those situations, it would be a larger group with chaperones that would go with the students. The recommendation from administration, supported by the committee, was that the approach to the student exchange program is really no longer tenable in terms of the amount of risk that it exposes the municipality to. The approach to sending an unaccompanied minor overseas, where the municipality is not actually vetting the host families and has a very low opportunity for having involvement on the other side of the exchange, is very difficult. So administration recommended to the committee that this was likely an unreasonable risk and liability exposure for the municipality. And I believe that the committee believed that that was the case. There may be opportunities to identify other approaches to exchange, and maybe those would be things that would be able to be renewed through discussion with Hakone, Japan through the delegation. But at this time, the committee is recommending the council discontinue the student exchange program. And then finally, the committee only recently established a terms of reference. Council remember that before the end of last year, you passed the terms of reference. That terms of reference, I suggest that there should be a chair. That chair should be appointed by council through its regular process at an organizational meeting, but the terms of reference weren't finalized before the organizational meeting. So the committee among itself identified that Councillor Waxer should act as the chair, and they're making that recommendation to yourself, Your Worship, and that you should consider appointing Councillor Waxer to act as the chair of the committee until the next organizational meeting. Your Worship, I'm happy to answer any other questions. Again, I see Councillor Waxer and Councillor Keller-Hempy. Hopefully I did the meeting justice. And if you wanted any more insight into the thoughts of the committee on any of the topics, I'm sure they can help you out.
Thank you for that, Mr. Gibbon. Councillors? Councillor Keller-Hempy?
We had a lengthy discussion on the delegation, and we kind of changed the approach this year because we thought that if we invited Tourism Jasper, that they would be interested in going and doing connecting with business, tourism business within Tokyo, kind of having a tourism summit, and that they may be interested in involving the Destination Canada and Travel Alberta. And we thought that some residents or businesses may like to attend this, and they may like to either have a holiday on one side or the other, but then they just have to focus that they're not going for 10 days for a huge delegation, that they're actually only going for 4 days to the delegation, and they could choose to do a holiday before or after, or just attend a delegation, or if Tourism Jasper was interest in doing business calls within Japan, that either council, if they wanted to attend something like that, could, or again, they then we're free just to attend our sister city portion for the 4 days.
Thank you for that. Any questions from other councillors about the recommendations? I would turn to members of the committee then, if you wanted to make motions. Councillor Keller.
The council approved the 2024 motion to that council approved the 2024 delegation to Hakone. And that council authorized the mayor to write a letter to Tourism Jasper, invite them to formally participate in the Hakone delegation from November 1 to 4.
Thank you for that motion. I'm going to assume that November 1 to 4 encompasses the dates of the Daimyo parade
Yes.
this year. Thank you for that. Any debate on the motion? I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Thank you. Student exchange program. Councillor Waxer.
That council discontinue the Jasper-Hakone student exchange program permanently.
Thank you for that motion. Any debates? I will call the question. All those in favor? Are none opposed? That is carried. And before I call for the next one, the word is the mayor consider. Do we need a formal appointment, and should the motion say aye?
Your worship, will speak to that. The administration and the committee recognize that, so that the terms of reference require the appointment of the chair. The committee, I think we we're playing with the language, we're trying to find the right language. Obviously, the committee can recommend that the mayor, or recommend that the mayor consider. I think our practice is that the mayor recommends to council and council votes on. And so this is whether the wording is exactly proper or not. I think the committee is recommending that Councillor Waxer be appointed as the chair. And if that, your worship, was your recommendation, I suppose a council member could move that, or if you'd like to take it away, again, a first time process and outside of our regular organizational meeting, it'll be in your list next time around.
I think that typically I make recommendations and council directs me to appoint, and so if it said, I think we might as well appoint, rather than just have the mayor consider it done, it should be done. So if whoever is making the motion, which probably will not be Councillor Waxer, so it might be another member of the committee. I just want to make sure that it's as formalized as I think it ought to be.
Okay. I intend to. The council direct Mayor Ireland to appoint Councillor Waxer as the chair of the Jasper-Hakone committee until the next organization meeting, October 2024.
Thank you for that. Assuming no debate, I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. So thank you, Hakone committee, for that work and clearing up a number of items in one go. We have 4 items left. Not sure that they will take long. I would leave it to council. Is there any appetite for a brief recess, or yes, or for a recess? Okay, it is 10 minutes, should be more than enough. Okay, we'll reconvene at just before 3. And until then, we will stand in recess. Thank you all. We are now reconvened, and I will call us back to session. We are at agenda item 6.6, Alberta Tourism Advocacy Summit. This was added, as I indicated a week ago, at my request. The Travel Industry Association of Alberta holds a couple of summits annually, one of them typically in the winter, February. Councillor Wilson and I and CAO, Mr. Gibbon, attended the one in Edmonton a year ago. I found it to be very beneficial to be engaged in discussions with the tourism industry, generally, given that it's the predominant industry in our own community. I did take a bit of initiative without authority when I got notice after our last council meeting, which was December 19th, I think on the 20th. I came across something for early bird registration, so I took advantage of that just to save money if council continues to have an interest in this. So I am interested in attending. The mayors of Canmore and Banff are also going to be there, as are the mayors of Sylvan Lake and Drumheller, and they have now joined our advocacy efforts with respect to tourism-based community designation. So if I go, I can coordinate both the learning opportunities with meetings with those other mayors. But I would first require approval from council. And it would be great, I think, to have another councillor attend if there is a councillor who is interested and available. So Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. I would be interested and available. Again, I've gone to a few things, so I feel like if any other councillors want to go, but I can make my schedule available for that summit.
Thank you for that. If there is a councillor prepared to make a motion, that Councillor Councillor.
I prefer to make the motion that council approve Mayor Ireland and Councillor Hall to attend the Alberta Tourism Advocacy Summit on I believe February 4th, 6th in Edmonton.
Thank you for that. Debate on the motion. I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That was carried. Thank you. Before we leave that subject, if Councillor Hall and I are away, I understand from the correspondence that Councillor Deputy Mayor Wilson will be away.
I will be away. I will also be away. I'll be away from January 28th, returning to Jasper on February 10th.
As I indicated earlier, that leaves us short for quorum for the 6th. So what we might do is by motion cancel that meeting. We do have that issue with utility fee bylaw that should be addressed, but it occurred to me if we can get certification in time, we could quite easily add a special meeting to the tag end of our committee of the whole next week, and it wouldn't inconvenience anybody, and we could still meet that deadline and get the advertising out the door in time. But I think that we do have an obligation to the public to let them know if we're not going to hold a meeting, that we might as well do it when we can. So I would suggest that it would be appropriate for a motion to cancel the February 6th regular council meeting. And then I can, if council here agrees, call a special meeting to be held. Whatever what day is, today's the 16th, so the 23rd.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I make motion that we cancel February 6th meeting and following the committee of the whole meeting on February 23rd, that we hold a special meeting for the agenda to approve the third reading for both for the utilities and the tax.
Thank you for that. Motion, Councillor Keller-Hempy. All those in favor? There are none opposed to that, was carried. Agenda item 6.7, transit standards. Councillor Waxer.
I wanted to speak to this because I was quite troubled over the weekend, recognizing that the transit service was canceled for the morning of the Saturday morning. I was troubled about that because of the potential impact on or the potential for someone to be vulnerably left in the cold waiting for a bus because there wasn't sufficient notice. I would have been understood and been but still concerned had there not been a viable alternative. I recognize this is my own thoughts and isn't expressing the thoughts of council. And I think if we look at my history, my career has been spent looking out for people who are vulnerable. So that is always the first lens that I would look at. The other comment I would like to just put forward is when we move forward on the transit contract, I was more than prepared to accept that there would be low ridership and some days no ridership because people's behavior takes a while to change and people need to build trust. And I guess that was the other piece to it that was disappointing to me. What it was that we made the decision not to continue, not to offer the service when we had an option, because I think that the dependability of the service is what builds confidence and inspires people to take advantage of the service. So I'm only expressing my own personal thoughts on this weekend, but it prompted me to wish that we would have the opportunity to discuss service standards in the future so that all of council can weigh in on that and we make a firm path forward for administration, because I also recognize that that's a difficult decision on a Saturday morning for administration, and it would be much easier for them if we have made our expectations clear. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to that.
Thank you for that. Councillor Waxer, so is your suggestion to add transit service standards to a future agenda?
Yes, it is.
And Mr. Given, as we understood from earlier conversations, there was an intent to come forward with a transit report in the next week in any event, is that?
Yes, your worship, as discussed with council previously, I think there's a desire to see more regular information about the updates to the transit system and how things are operating. So I believe I'd updated council that we would bring forward. So that looks a lot like a director's report that would update council on key statistics and user information. We also have the change to the winter service schedule. The council previously during budget gave direction to administration to make some changes and come to respond to the needs of users. And also at budget, council asked administration to come forward with information in advance of any of the capital projects. And so we have a number of transit related items. So administration wanted to act quickly in the start of the new year to bring at least that update report. And so that seems like a pretty good time to be able to address some of the items that Councillor Waxer is mentioning in that report, which is already partially drafted, in addition to the statistics and the information about the service change to the schedule. Administration was planning to propose that council should support a transit service standards policy and administrative procedures to really get to the heart of the matters that Councillor Waxer is talking about. So that is partially underway would be a great forum to be able to have that conversation, and administration would be happy to answer any questions. And I think to receive any direction from council on what standards of service or how you'd like to handle service standards going forward.
And can that occur at the next committee of whole meeting?
Yes, Your Worship, that's what I'm saying, is that we'll have that transit report anyhow, and so it'd be a perfect forum to have that conversation.
All right, thank you for that. Is there a need for a motion to add that to the agenda, or is it coming in any event?
Well, certainly if we would like to have if we'd like to have a dedicated discussion on transit service standards, that's something any council member can add an item to any committee of the whole agenda at any time. So Councillor Waxer, would like to ask council to do that, or to just direct that to happen, by all means. And we will also have another transit item, which, we'll make sure that we have a lot of the information, maybe even some of the questions that council might ask, available at the table anyhow.
I'll make the motion, not recommendations, but that council direct administration to add transit service standards to the January 23rd committee of the whole agenda.
Thank you for that motion, Councillor Waxer. Any debates? Call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. So thank you for that. And that gives an opportunity for the public who are engaged in this issue to make plans to join us on our Zoom platform next week, or appear in person if they choose, knowing that we will come back to that discussion in a week's time. Agenda item 6.8 is next. That is community engagement. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. So I've been thinking a lot about community engagement in the last few months, especially since I went to the Tourism Summit in Roslyn and met the Sylvan Lake Council, and they have a program called Chatting with Council. I'm not sure how often they go out with a billboard. They let public know via their social media platforms where they're going to be, and whether it be a coffee shop or a hockey game somewhere where our residents are. It's just a very casual opportunity for residents to engage in council. And we have an opportunity, we have a space that, well, this past week was almost 600 residents gather every week. And I think it is an opportunity for us to be a bit more present and visible. And at our community dinners, I was there this past week serving as a staff member for the Raven Bistro, and I think numbers were like 565. It could be as simple as having a table in the corner. We wear our name tags. I don't think we would need a ton of admin support. Maybe the only thing would be a banner or some Municipality of Jasper logoing. But I would like to attend this week and just see how it goes. Again, I don't think it has to be anything incredibly formal. It can just be a councillor or two, if anybody wanted to join me this week, sitting at a table with, I'm not sure if you've seen those pictures or those memes, like to change my mind on the front of the table. I am approachable, ask us anything. We take paper and pens and jot things down. I understand that it can seem hard for residents to come to us. I often will reach out via, private messenger if I see things on Facebook and just invite residents for coffee. And I get that people are busy and maybe don't want to come to us, but I think this is an opportunity where we can go to them, where there are a lot of them in a small space for a couple hours and engage. If it goes well, and again, I don't think we need all of council there every single week, but one or two would be nice. And I'm happy to go as often as I can, and then until these dinners are finished. If it's successful, we could take a short break when the dinners finish up in the spring and continue on at the Music in the Park on the Sundays. I find I have my best conversations with residents when it's in that kind of comfortable, easy platform, as opposed to residents coming to our council meetings where you might get a little bit intimidated. And I just wanted to see what kind of feedback, what council thought, and if anybody wanted to potentially join me on this Sunday.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Keller-Hempy.
I don't know if I want to commit to Sundays. I'm gonna be honest, I get a lot of feedback. I walk into a coffee shop, I'm an hour later getting out. I go to the grocery store, I'm there for a while. My phone rings constantly. I have conversations at the post office. I meet a lot of people on the street. I find that when people want to find me, they find me. I've been to a couple of community dinners. I have to say, nobody really talked to me there. I found it was a very social venue. I'm gonna be honest, as a councillor, I can't commit to Sundays. That's my day off. That's my family day. And, but you know, I'm quite happy. I meet with residents, I meet with businesses, I find community futures, walks with the businesses. I get a lot of feedback there. I get a lot of feedback just shopping in town, going from store to store. So I don't know if we have to formally, I find like with issues, this past weekend, but let me tell you, I got a lot of feedback. So, I'm gonna be honest, I can't commit to Sundays.
Thank you, Councillor Keller-Renzi. Any other comments?
I'm not adverse to your idea. I don't see myself participating in it, unfortunately, but again, it is a great idea. I also feel like you don't want to formalize the informal conversation. And so by putting ourselves in a table and saying, speak to us, like, I think that's making something formal that should be formal. And so I, again, get the best feedback from informal conversations, and yeah, I wouldn't want to change that. But again, it's your idea, I'm supportive of your idea, but I'm not sure you'll get buy-in from everybody on council, and I don't want to be like required to be there on my set date, that I signed out, but yeah, anyway, that's my opinion on it.
Thank you for that, Deputy Mayor Wilson. I tend to agree. It's a great opportunity, and I encourage councillors to engage with the community in venues that make sense to them. And so if it makes sense to you, I think it's a great way. There are 500 or 600 people there. But I agree with the comments that to formalize it takes away from the atmosphere that was intended. It's for social engagement for the community. It's not a political event. But it becomes that the more you formalize it, and it presents challenges in a couple of ways. Firstly, we've had a couple of councillors who indicated they simply can't be there on a regular basis. If we set it up, then there is an opportunity for differentiation. Well, these councillors never show up. And that's unfair, I think, to them. But if it's an opportunity that any councillor wants to use to engage, it's certainly available. I encourage that. Apart from all the things that mentioned by Councillor Keller-Renzi, I find that my snow shoveling takes a whole lot longer than it ought to. People stop by and then have a conversation, which I don't discourage, but there are lots of opportunities for councillors to engage. And I agree, formalizing an informal opportunity presents, I think, some challenges.
Thanks for that feedback. Maybe it's because I'm only a first-term councillor, but I do not get feedback from grocery stores, shoveling my walk on the streets. I want to try this, and I understand that I might be there by myself, and that's totally fine. Again, I don't think I would need any admin support. But yeah, I just don't get feedback from residents. So I feel like this could be a place I go, like maybe those are, let's say, maybe residents that are too busy to find me on the streets or too busy working their jobs. But it just to me feels like a bit of a missed opportunity. But I wonder if maybe this might be a better conversation for our planning session in some capacity. I'm just seeing a lot of conversation on Facebook that isn't formal. It doesn't come to us. There's a few of us on council that don't have Facebook pages, so you would never see that conversation. And I feel there's a lot of residents that maybe because they're commenting on a municipality post, they feel like it's getting to us. And so I don't know if, this has all come out of me watching Facebook over the last few months, this past year. And I don't know that that's a place where I want to engage in a conversation back and forth and comments. But, what I have been doing is, like I said, I'll reach out to somebody privately and offer a coffee, and I don't get taken up on that. So I'm just not sure if, what a better opportunity would be to engage, but just being at that dinner on Sunday and seeing, close to 600 residents there. And then not all of them are, some are going to be out of foreigners or some winter staff, but there's still residents. And I would like to try it, but maybe I don't, if not all of us are there, because again, I wouldn't want me to be the only one that goes there and be seen as the only councillor that goes there. So just felt like an idea I've had. I've been thinking about it a lot since the summit in Rossland and the chatting with council that the Sylvan Lake Council does, and it's been quite successful for them. So I really should go with this. Maybe we just move this on to a conversation for our strat planning session.
Thank you for that, Councillor Waxer.
Yes, I had a question for Director Reid. Would you see any challenges, given that that program is run through your department? Would there be any challenges to having a council table there, or would you have any thoughts on the community dinners as a venue for conversation?
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Waxer and all of council. The short answer is Councillor Hall is right. I think 585 on Sunday, and so there are certainly going to be some logistical challenges with trying to put a table. However, I do think that perhaps that table is in the lobby, not in the multipurpose hall itself, as just on the spot idea that to try to make that separation from the meal rather than and also there is certainly some times in the lineup where a little light entertainment might be enjoyable to some of the residents and visitors that are in the line. There have been some very good comments across the table today, Council. I applaud your thoughtfulness around the purpose of the community dinners, as well as the thoughtfulness around engaging residents who happen to be in a collected place. I think you're all in the right place. If I could look at it from my sort of professional lens, there's some opportunity there and there's some challenge. So I think the short answer is it's council's program. If council sees this opportunity and would like to take advantage of it, we can certainly assist in making it the most successful setup we can.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Kelleher.
Through you to Councillor Hall, one of the things I have found successful in the past, when I've reached out with people, I've said, I'm going to be at this coffee shop at this time, if you'd like to join me. But I put it out to a couple of people, and I've had people start that way to join me. The same way with businesses. I'm going to be at a coffee shop from 8:30 to 9:30. If you have, reach out to and just say, I have invited a few people, because sometimes when you reach out and it's one-on-one, people are kind of, no, I don't want to do that. But when a couple of people go together, I found them very successful. Also through Community Futures, Ms. Robbins, she often has network groups that get together, like with women in business and that meet at one of the coffee shops, I think once a month. And I've gone to that a couple of times. So I find if you connect through organizations that we're involved with, and I reached out that way, and I have found it very successful.
Yeah. All right, thank you for that. Agenda item 6.9, CMHC conference attendance on affordable housing, I think, Councillor or Deputy Mayor Wilson.
Yeah, thank you for that. Similar to your item earlier, Mayor Island, in terms of summit. It's been brought to my attention that there's the CMHC, Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation National Conference happening in March. It's March 18th through 19th in Ottawa. I think this conference will be quite beneficial for myself and my role, but also to bring information back to council. Sorry, by saying that, I'm the chair of the JMHC currently. And the situation we're in with our pending housing project. People that would be attending this conference are discussing issues such as funding solutions, affordable housing, municipal approaches to innovative building, innovative construction methods, climate compatible and resilient housing, as well as multi-unit and community housing design. Opportunities to find ways to engage the community members. So I am here to request attendance at this conference. Off the top of my head, again, Minister of Housing, Sean Fraser, will be the opening keynote. So I feel like I could gain a lot from this conference, and I would like to make a motion that council approve my attendance at this conference.
Thank you for that, Deputy Mayor Wilson. I appreciated getting your email the other day about this. I think it's great. I looked at the agenda and it seems perfectly well suited. So I'm certainly in favor of the motion. Any other comments? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. That takes us to agenda item 7, notices of motion, of which there are none. Which takes us to agenda item 8, councillor reports. Are there any reports of councillors' attendances as boards and committees to which they've been appointed? Councillor Waxer?
This is not really, I haven't really attended the meeting, but I have, as the chair of the Communities in Bloom program, I have reached out to the provincial office and asked for some information on the program and the terms of reference and all of that. So I just to inform you that I getting prepared for launching that program in 2024 and gathering all the information that's required.
Thank you for that. Any other reports? Deputy Mayor Wilson?
Last Wednesday, I attended the adult conversation along with Councillor Waxer, and honestly, it was my first since being appointed to that board. I did have to miss it, take a couple meetings in the late part of last year, but I definitely see the benefit and I really enjoy the collaboration of the individuals that attend, and not to bring anything in particular back to the table today, but I find that we're going to really be able to hear what the community is seen out there, and I think it's a really good voice for again, community engagement. And I think if we advertise this and we get the word out, I feel like those are the forums to be in front of council in a bit more of a formal setting, but alongside community peers.
Thank you for that, Deputy Mayor Wilson. I can report that same day, Councillor Waxer did double duty because she stayed for the seniors community conversation, which I attended, which followed adult, and I agree with the assessment of Councillor Wilson about the opportunity there. with the seniors, it was an opportunity to share just some really basic information about the work that Director Reed has done to open up the multipurpose hall for walking 3 days a week. And some seniors did not know that. They were excited to know that that opportunity existed. So I told them that there's also an opportunity for rollerblading. They were happy to know that. But it is a real opportunity to get information out and to receive information from others. I attended that on someday last week, Wednesday, I think. Councillor Waxer.
I neglected to mention that I actually did triple duty that day. I attended the early childhood and youth and teen work from noon to 1:30. It was extremely well attended, and again, I would reinforce the real value of that venue, and as you said, the reciprocal exchange of information from council, but also hearing what is going on in the community. So, thank you.
All right, thank you for those reports. Agenda item 9, upcoming events, the Jasper Park Chamber of Commerce General Meeting tomorrow morning via Zoom, commencing at 9. We are in the midst of Jasper in January, and thankfully we have warmer temperatures and more snow, so that's exciting. NETMA next week, Wednesday of next week, location to be announced, unless somebody knows. And coldest night of the year, and Councillor Waxer will get us all organized for that for February 24th. And strategic priorities, as was just mentioned, the end of February, 1st of March. Are there any other events upcoming that should be brought to the attention of council? Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. Not an additional event, but just I wanted to comment on the coldest night of the year and really challenge council and residents to participate, just in light of what's happening in Edmonton with the crisis around encampments. I believe last week our outreach department saw three people come through houseless, and I don't think the crisis in Edmonton is going to be isolated in Edmonton, and we will see people coming through. It's a route to British Columbia, but I think it just really makes me happy that we've approved and we stand behind the crisis intervention positions that we have in our outreach department.
Thank you for that. Deputy Mayor Wilson.
Just got a text from Chamber of Commerce. NEPA is at harvest.
Thank you for that. So that is January 24th. 5 to 7 typically, and at harvest for this edition. All right, if there is nothing further, then agenda item 10 is adjournment. Councillor Keller-Harambee, motion to adjourn. All those in favor? There are none opposed. We are adjourned. Thank you all very much. Thanks to the grade 6 class that attended, who are undoubtedly still watching on the platform. Thank you to them, and thank you to all others who watched our proceedings today. And we will be back next Tuesday morning at 9:30 for committee of the whole. Thank you all.